ingredient of movement here.
And you wonder about Tommy Morrison's psyche. I'm sure he feels he's got a chance at this fight. You still got a few rounds to go. What's left in the gas tank? Because you just can't coast at this point. It's still a close fight. You have to throw punches and try and slow Foreman down. You're not going to stop him. But look at that, walking away from, you start to burn up more energy than Foreman.
You wonder about the psyche now, if he's elevated himself a level. That is Tommy Morrison, because of how well he's done here. Basically, he's down to a 4-round fight to defeat George Foreman, and he's ahead. There's a look at George Foreman, and across the way, Tommy Morrison, as we start the 9th round, scheduled for 12 in this WBO heavyweight title bout. And Tommy Morrison, to this point, has gone against past form and is moving more to give him angles for the left hook you just saw.
And even though both guys have taken some pretty big shots, there's no cuts on any guys, no swollen eyes or anything like that. So the punches are doing damage, but not a lot of damage.
Morrison firing the hook again and showing the type of conditioning and stamina we have never seen from him on a sustained basis. Now George Foreman wiping the floor. He slipped a little bit, trying to fire that uppercut. Right there was his chance, Tony, but he doesn't pull the trigger.
Shades of Foreman Frazier. He put his hands on Morrison and pushed him back. He nailed Joe Frazier with the uppercut many years ago, but he didn't throw anything this time. He just kind of set it up and didn't do it.
Surprising that George Foreman has cornered Tommy Morrison quite a few times in this bout, but Morrison has either been too quick for Foreman or Foreman is just not having his night.
The one thing I like about Morrison, as he tries to throw that home run uppercut, he lets Foreman get set. Just as he gets ready to move, Morrison throws punches and gets out of there. So George is still waiting. He's got his hand on the trigger, hasn't pulled it, just waiting.
Morrison using the entire ring, but not just circling in defense. He's been smart, moving on angles, moving in and out, and never the same movement too often.
A couple of times he's turned almost all the way around, but he backs up sometimes, backs up on an angle, but he's got to throw punches. Still late in the fight, 9 rounds. You don't want to let George get rolling because it only takes a couple of punches to get you out of there.
These are some good shots that Morrison has hit Foreman with throughout this contest.
Now here's where you think George just starts winging punches, but he's waiting, and he lets Morrison get off the hook. He had him cornered.
That is strange. That right there, Foreman is looking at his opportunity to win the bout, which he'll need. He is falling further and further behind on the scorecards. When Morrison retreats into the corner, Foreman must come at him, and he is not.
And you let Morrison throw a 4-punch combination, they all land, that's winning the round right there. Foreman is not doing enough to counteract Morrison. At least throw punches. If you don't throw anything, the judges can see you're not busy.
Probably what surprises Foreman is that with the fast start Morrison got, he has not slowed down here.
Not at all. That's surprising.
Now Foreman there had a chance to measure Morrison, and he waited and waited without firing something. George Foreman extremely unwilling to gamble in the final stages of this bout as round 9 goes into the books.
Yeah. No, nothing. No. I got it. Don't worry. You'll have everything. Hey, hold that. Everything's fine. As long as you're jabbing, you keep your hands up. You're beautiful.
Yeah, the man keep him up here. Hit him with left hook, right hand. 1, 2, 3, and just spin him.
Don't worry about the body shots. Champ, let him go.
In the face. Throw at the gloves. Get him out of there. Don't let him creep in on you. Okay? Everything that has 7s, move away, set up. Set up quicker. Set up quicker.
See Morrison setting himself up, pushes himself just a little bit to see if he can throw that right hand, and he lands it. I can see Foreman's a little upset.
George Foreman looking annoyed there and a bit distracted as we start round 10. And Tony, you get the impression in the corner of George Foreman from Angelo Dundee that everything is fine with him in this bout, and it certainly is not.
I would think Angelo should have added something to that advice. Everything is fine. but throw the left jab, but try an overhand right, just to plant a seed in George's head that he thought of it.
Everything is fine, but knock him out because you need it. 10th round coming up. Tommy Morrison has given a virtuoso boxing performance for him. Good movement. He's only been cornered and in slugfests a couple times. One was round 7. And even in the 9th round, where at times he was in a battle, Tommy Morrison did very well.
Tommy Morrison is showing a lot of smarts. He knows how to get out of an inside warfare without letting George get on a roll. George might hit him once or twice. Maybe it's the 4th punch of a combination that would take Morrison out, but he's getting away, not letting George throw that many punches.
So for Tommy Morrison, perhaps the lessons of the Ray Mercer fight are coming back to help him here. He has dispensed his energy more wisely. And Mills Lane not buying what Tommy Morrison tried to sell him right there. And from that angle, Tony, I think it was a good call.
And I think Morrison, you never assume the referee saw something and turn your back, because then you get knocked out, you're complaining. Here's George trying to throw that uppercut. A nice inside right by Morrison.
From the angle we got, that looked like a good right hand by George Foreman, and Mills Lane called it that way. Tommy Morrison fortunate that Foreman did not follow up.
Morrison's starting to sprint away from George now. That's not a good sign, because that means you're starting to run out of gas. It's almost a desperation sprint. Morrison
cornered but still able to trade. Foreman cannot catch him with the right hand. Good right by Morrison. Where is that Foreman uppercut?
And Morrison is moving around so much. His punches have a pity-pat effect because he's not planting his feet and just throwing from the shoulder, which don't do a lot of damage.
And Morrison again turning his back on Foreman, and Foreman did not follow up, prompting boos.
He's making Foreman follow him, but there George follows him with a right hand.
Morrison comes in with a couple, backing off now, and you get the impression that Foreman can't win this fight. Morrison will have to lose it.
That was a good left by Morrison.
It's going to cost you a point. 1 point off.
Taking a point away from Foreman.
Well, he's done that a few times now with the low blows, and Mills Lane does it quickly. A difficult round for Foreman. There's a look at Tommy Morrison and George Foreman, the 11th round. This is Dave Bontempo and Tony Page. Tony, I've got it 98-91 for Tommy Morrison right now.
You're not looking over my shoulder. I have it the same way.
Well, that's the view from here. And how about Joe Clancy? He's got it closer with Morrison. He's been giving Morrison the last few rounds, as we have also, and according to that, Foreman would still have some shot, but I think George needs the big knockout here.
He does. He needs a good 10-8 round, especially after Mills Lane took a point away in the last round. Tommy Morrison is doing what he's been doing since the beginning of the fight, staying outside, using his legs. When he gets inside, bop, bop, a couple of punches, and he gets out of there. Doesn't slug with George Foreman.
George Foreman has either been reluctant to parlay his advantages or has found that Tommy Morrison has just a little too much speed. And when do you ever remember Tommy Morrison being able to move like this in the latter stages of a fight?
It's almost like a new Tommy Morrison. We're so used to seeing this brawler who throws wide punches and gets caught, and here he is turning into a boxer, using a jab, using his smarts and his legs, something we didn't know he had.
The fear of George Foreman's power has brought out a much better boxer in Tommy Morrison.
He knows not to get inside of George's power zone, which is a little bit closer than that. He's making the old guy come after him.
Now, he's wandered in there on some occasions, but only a couple, and he's been able to trade at least on an even basis. So for Tommy Morrison, looking back over the many fights in his career, this would have to be his signature performance to this moment.
Especially when you look at the opponent, George, even though he's 44 years old, can still punch, and you can't knock him out. You know he's coming forward, so you have to be busy. You have to be in the best shape of your life because you're going to have to use everything you got.
And George Foreman can knock down buildings, but even in escaping George Foreman and moving on him, etc., you still have to establish some punching respect to keep him from walking right to you, and Morrison has landed some nice shots.
The only thing I don't like what Morrison is doing is when he turns his back just like that and basically walks away from Foreman. He can get away with it because Foreman's older, he's slower. A young kid would jump across the ring just to try and nail him on the side of the head.
And that is taking a few too many liberties. But Tommy Morrison is in the final half minute and a little bit more than a round away from pulling off what would be a notable upset.
But the crowd's booing on that jogging by Morrison. They want to see a slugfest.
Their message seems to be, this is the wrong division for finesse. This is not the sweet science. We've got 1 round to go coming up between Foreman and Morrison.
A lot of combinations, okay? I need you. He's going to come at you here now, okay? Everything you coming forward on, okay? 7-7 combinations. Get on the inside. Be tight. Be tight on the inside. Look for you.
Ain't doing nothing. Just don't blow your nose. Last round now. Champ, ain't no more. Don't let him turn his back on you.
Punch. You understand what I'm saying? Steal the last 30 seconds. That's right. They telling him.
Tommy Morrison way on top. According to that, the punches landed a little bit closer. And we start the final round between Tommy Morrison and George Foreman. They touch gloves. This is Dave Bontempo and Tony Page. Glad you've joined this fight here from the Thomas and Mack Center for the WBO Heavyweight Championship.
Morrison opens the round with a stiff jab. We haven't seen a good stiff jab from him in a while. He's used a lot of body shots, a lot of fights, a lot of punches when he's inside and can't throw that jab. But there he is. He's working behind the jab.
And in Foreman's corner, no sense of urgency needed to win this fight. I guess they figure that he knows everything in this game already. He's been around so long. And Foreman comes on with some power here. Morrison turns the back again. Angelo Dundee said, don't do that. Don't let him.
Morrison came out with a lot of punches. Now he seems like he's slowing down a little bit. He's got to keep throwing punches if he wants this title.
Can George Foreman pull a miracle knockout victory out here? He is trailing on the cards. He has not been opportunistic. He has met the best Tommy Morrison that has ever stepped into the ring as far as boxing ability, movement, and conditioning.
When Morrison gets ready to throw a big punch, he seems to take a peek to see if it's safe to throw the punch, throws it, and gets out of there. Foreman keeps coming forward. He's not throwing his jab. He's just trying to load up on that one big shot, but he has never been in the right position to throw it.
Foreman has give what you could term a measured performance in this bout. He only comes up and fights in spurts. And he has just found Morrison to be a little too quick, and there have been some puzzling moments where Foreman has had his chances and not done anything.
It's like he has Morrison cornered. Morrison can't go anywhere. He doesn't throw any punches. He lets Morrison scoot away.
Morrison lands a couple shots, flush shots on Foreman's chin. Absolutely nothing happened, and he got far away from George.
Morrison still trying to give the angles, throws about 2-3 punches, gets out of there.
Tommy Morrison can use this entire ring as often as he wanted, but he's still in front of Foreman in the last minute of the fight. Not advisable. Foreman trying to steal it here.
Good left hook by George, but Tommy was away from the power zone. It hit him, but not full force.
And again, that Morrison turn, and Mills Lane intervenes. There is tape on the glove of Foreman, and he sees it. So a little bit of a break here. And that's nice that they get that, and Foreman has to take the rest of it off. No, they just go right over the top.
There you go.
Foreman getting a bit of a break.
Trying to get some advice.
And Mills Lane gets that away. Angelo Dundee has been around a long time. He steals a little advice. Why not?
You expect that.
These guys are expected to try. So Foreman getting a little more chance, and there's a good look at the tape, which is still dangling, not addressed, and may not be before the end of this bout. But for Tommy Morrison, what a performance. He is on his way to what should be for him the win of a lifetime.
Go over here.
And that is it. Mills Lane gets the tape off. Morrison very happy, the fans unhappy. But Tony, that almost figures that if Morrison was going to win, the fans may not like the performance.
No, I think most people expected Tommy Morrison to come out and say, if I don't get it done in a couple of rounds, it ain't going to happen, throw a lot of punches. But it was a new Tommy Morrison. He used his legs, he used his hands, and more importantly, he used his head. He wouldn't stay in front of George Foreman and let him knock him out.
That is the best I have ever seen Tommy Morrison.
I had Morrison winning 118-109. It's a big margin. It may not have been pleasing to the fans, but it was a textbook perfect performance. He did what he had to do. He won the fight, at least in my mind.
When you break down the fight, a 12-rounder, you're basically looking at 12 one-round fights. And for Tommy Morrison, he outpointed George Foreman all the way along here, using the angles, and no urgency for Big George.
What also surprised me about Morrison is he came in shape. He never ran out of gas. He used his legs when he had to. Sure, he was breathing hard, but he wasn't flat out of gas toward the end of the fight.
Maybe two reactions by his people. One, what a great performance, and two, where has this been?
I wish he was seen this earlier. He's got some great boxing skills there.
Let's get the results from Michael Buffer on this contest.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me remind you the winner of this bout will be the WBO World Heavyweight Champion. We go to the scorecards. Dalby Shirley and Patricia Jarman both score the bout 117-110. Jerry Roth scores the bout 118-109 for the winner and new champion, Tommy the Duke Morrison.